Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Serein, and today's video is going to talk about how I knew I was pregnant or early signs of pregnancy. Now, these are clearly, obviously, my first symptoms of giving me a clue that maybe I should take a pregnancy test. And then of course, once I knew I was pregnant, some of the first trimester symptoms. This might be helpful for those of you guys trying to conceive or those of you guys who are also going through your first trimester and don't want to feel so alone. Because I know I thought I was just like going crazy and that a lot of these symptoms were so weird, and it really helped when you guys told me that have gone through this that it was absolutely normal and I wasn't experiencing anything strange. With everything happening right now, it's a little bit harder to get in contact with your OBs or maybe just doctors in general, or maybe you don't really want to reach out to your doctor right away. So this video will hopefully help you feel less alone and also let you guys know what some of the symptoms might be if you're trying to conceive or if you're going through it with me. I have 5 early symptoms before I actually knew I was pregnant, and then I have 5 symptoms after I found out I was pregnant, but still relatively early, around week 5 or 6. So let's get started. Super early symptoms where I did not even know I was pregnant or didn't even think pregnancy was a possibility. The number one thing I noticed, and I thought like I was losing my mind, was that my eye would not stop twitching for like 2 weeks. My left eye just kept twitching, and at first I thought it was due to maybe some weird stress I wasn't recognizing because we were going into quarantine. So I thought that's what was actually happening. And then I also thought maybe I was magnesium or potassium deficient, but I also do take a magnesium and potassium supplement because I know I don't get enough of that in my normal diet. I also noticed some weird muscle cramping that I never experienced before. And again, I thought maybe I was having a mineral deficiency because I was eating a pretty low carb diet at the time. It was what I was enjoying, so I was listening to my body. And it kind of eventually went away after around 2.5 weeks, but it was driving me crazy. And I had brought it up during an Instagram live with you guys as well. So it was just like this weird thing. And later on, after I found out I was pregnant, it is a rare symptom that you can experience really early on in pregnancy. Extreme breast tenderness and pain. This was really strange for me because I don't remember my boobs ever feeling tender or sore like this. Maybe when I was first developing in my preteens and like growing boobs, I felt like weird little sensations and soreness in the breast area. And occasionally, but very, very rarely for me, around that time of the month, I would get a little soreness or very sensitive nipples and breasts. Now, this was pretty intense. It felt like my boobs were growing, or there was like just this constant ache in my boobs, and then my nipples were definitely way more sore and sensitive, to the point where like wearing normal bras was so uncomfortable, and if I wasn't careful in even putting on my sports bras and taking them off, like I would hurt myself. So I was just constantly aware of my boobs. The tenderness and soreness has actually become less probably midway through the end of my first trimester. I'm close to the end of my first trimester right now. So I don't really actually notice my soreness or breast tenderness as much as when I didn't know I was pregnant into the first few weeks of knowing I was pregnant. As you guys might know, I work out a lot, and when quarantine first started, I was actually increasing my workouts because I was doing them at home. So I would do 2 workouts a day plus film workouts for LegFit and my Instagram. And I did notice that the same workouts, specifically my HIIT routines, I was becoming more winded in less time, or I just get really, really winded, and it would take me a little bit longer to catch my breath. And I thought maybe it was just because I was doing double workouts, or I thought maybe because I was just a little bit more lethargic by being home all the time and not leaving the house and not having that burst of energy at going to the gym. But looking back on it, that's clearly a sign of my body changing and working and growing a human being, because as time went by, I did notice how the same HIIT training would be harder to get through, and some days almost like, wow, I had never done HIIT before. Even though I could get through it, I just didn't feel as strong or as powerful trying to do these bursts of high intensity cardio HIIT trainings. My endurance definitely did not feel like it was up to par, and I would be like, wow, that was an intense workout, even though it was the same one I did last week. So that was something I noticed, but I also was like unable to really know if it was that, or maybe I was working even harder in a shorter period of time, so I was burning myself out quicker. I don't know. Basically, I know that I got winded real fast, real easily, but I didn't change my workouts for a very long time, even after I found out I was pregnant. The fourth early pregnancy symptoms before I was actually aware that I was pregnant were emotional changes. And I was very, very emotional, but as someone who deals with depression and all the things that go with depression, it's not the same kind of emotional stuff that I typically deal with depression. So a big concern of both myself and for Chris was that how are the hormonal changes going to affect my depression? Am I going to have to deal with depression throughout my pregnancy in a really intense way where my normal coping mechanisms aren't gonna work? Am I gonna be dealing with postpartum? And we don't know about postpartum, but so far in the first part of the pregnancy, I have been emotional, but in a very manageable, calm way. I would cry over something that was so silly and I knew it was silly, and then I would laugh about the fact that I was upset about this, or that I had cried, or that I was being emotional about something like Animal Crossing. And then I would just be laughing hysterically, but then I would also start crying again, and then I would laugh, and then I'd cry, and then I would freak Chris out because he wasn't sure if he should join in on the laughter or if I was seriously upset. And it was one of those things where it's like, even though I'm feeling all these emotions and little things are getting to me, I'm able to almost express and process the emotions more than when I am just dealing with depression on my own. And I definitely have been processing things a lot more calm than I expected. Like, I definitely expected that I was gonna have some problems with the hormonal changes and the emotions, but for whatever reason, maybe knowing that I have to take care of myself mentally, spiritually, and emotionally for my baby, I'm just a lot more cognizant of how I process things. It's weird. It's like almost, I have this like calm clarity over things. It's really strange, and I don't know how to explain it other than that, and hopefully I'm able to get this across to you. And the fifth thing that I noticed before I even took a pregnancy test or thought I was pregnant was heartburn. And I never deal with heartburn. I haven't dealt with heartburn since maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I was eating really poorly and overweight for my size. By not having heartburn or indigestion or any type of bloating in my system for so long, when I feel the heartburn come on, it's like really painful because you haven't dealt with it in so long. Just like when I get bloated, I feel so much more bloated because I'm not ever used to being bloated. So it's one of those things where it's like I feel things more intensely just because I haven't had to deal with it when I'm not pregnant. So the heartburn would like shock me, and I thought, wow, I'm really eating some bad food if I'm having such bad heartburn. I wasn't really eating that bad in the first part of my pregnancy because I wasn't nauseous. It wasn't until I was nauseous that I switched my diet around, and I kind of am just eating whatever I have to get by. But before the nausea came in, and I would say nausea came in around week 6, I was just eating my normal diet, and I would still have my treat meals once or twice a week. So my treat meals are usually really spicy and a little bit heavier in carbs, and not the best for you, but they're the same treat meals I was eating pretty much every week for a year at this point. So it was just strange that the same food was suddenly giving me heartburn. So I just thought it was the food, and that maybe I was eating more treat meals than normal because of quarantine, but I wasn't feeling bad outside of that. So I just kept doing it, and I was just like, okay, well, maybe we should cut down on the spice a little bit. But so the heartburn was like a big telltale sign. Now, if you guys want to know how I found out I was pregnant and why I even thought I was pregnant, because I didn't think I was pregnant for the longest time, you can watch my pregnancy announcement video, because Chris and I explain our history of thinking about having children, why we didn't want to have children for the longest time. Not that we didn't want to, but why we held off on it and kind of life kept getting in the way. And then when we finally did decide to start trying, and then why we stopped trying because of everything happening. I share with you like all the feelings, all the thoughts, and the whole process of that, and like the first few days of thinking I'm pregnant, taking the pregnancy test, and then going to the doctor. So that vlog is up, and that pregnancy announcement video is up, and I'll have it linked in the description box. So once I took the pregnancy test at home, I was 99.9% sure I was pregnant at this point, between the positive at-home pregnancy test, the fact that Chris was so sure, looking back on the calendar and doing the math, and then of course thinking about all of the things I had noticed with my body. Once I knew I was pregnant, the same symptoms were kind of happening. So I found out I was pregnant at home early week 5. Around week 6.5, almost week 7 was when all of these other symptoms kind of started hitting me. And it's so strange how quick your body just kind of switches and changes, and these new symptoms come, or these old symptoms go away and they are replaced with these new ones, and just how fast our body is like developing in these stages. It's mind-blowing when you think about it. First thing that hit me around mid-week 6 was nausea. I hate nausea. I hate feeling nauseous. I hate feeling like I'm gonna throw up. So that hit me pretty hard, and I was prepared for it because most women deal with some sort of nausea when pregnant. Not everybody, but it's a pretty high percent. I think I wanna say it was like 70 to 80% based on the statistics I read. I was just gonna prepare for it. I knew it was coming. I didn't know what level of it might be, and I tried to like take steps to minimize the feeling as much as possible, and having a supply of stuff just in case I felt nauseous. Unfortunately, I can't predict when I'm gonna feel nauseous, but it was pretty consistent. I hate that it's called morning sickness because that's not what it is. It's like all day nausea. I don't get better at night. I don't get better in the mornings. Like you can't predict it, and some days are worse, and some days it's manageable and it's barely there, and then it'll hit you really hard because something you smelled triggered you. It's just this thing that like you kind of have to go through and muscle through, and while I talk about it a lot, I'm not complaining about it. It's just how I'm feeling, and it's just what I'm going through, and I'm prepared for it. I want to talk about all these symptoms because I want you guys to know the possibility of it and what it's like, but I don't ever want you guys to think I'm complaining, because it's part of pregnancy, it's part of motherhood, it's part of like your body shifting and changing. And when you understand that, it's a little bit easier to get you through it. So I'm getting through it by knowing like, well, it's because my body's literally developing like another system to support a human being, and I'm growing a human. And the hardest thing I think in the first trimester is it's doing all this work, like the circulatory system, you're doubling your fluids to circulate to like help build the system to support your baby, and you're building the placenta and all these things. Like these things are all happening in the first trimester, and you don't really see much of it. I might look bloated on certain days. I don't look pregnant. I don't truly feel pregnant. So what has helped me with some of these symptoms and muscling through it and getting through it is like trying to understand what is actually happening in there. Because if you can understand that, then you can kind of be like, wow, it's amazing that I'm still sitting here and like I can eat, or that I'm sitting here and I can get any work done, because my body is literally like creating all these new systems, and it's kind of miraculous and insane to think about. And it's just really hard because there are days when I just don't feel pregnant, and I'm trying to like wrap my mind, okay, this nausea is because things are being pushed around, my body is taking energy and creating like the placenta. Nausea kicked in around mid-week 6, really kicked in week 7. It's been going pretty strong. I'm in the end of week 9 right now. I'm about to start week 10 when I sit down to film this. The smell of meat cooking makes me want to gag. Like I cannot stand the smell of meat cooking. I cannot stand the smell of anything really cooking in the house. So unfortunately, I've been requesting a lot of food out just because I can't even imagine smelling the food that I want to eat being cooked. So the second symptom that I was dealing with towards week 6 is tiredness and fatigue. And that's probably been the hardest thing for me, but also what everybody tells me is so normal. I apologize to every single friend of mine who has ever been pregnant, and I just didn't understand. I understood you said you were tired, but I did not truly understand, and I apologize for that. Unless you've experienced this type of fatigue, I'm not quite sure there's anything close to it. It's so bizarre. It's so strange. It's like, you know, we've all pulled all-nighters. We've all stayed up way past when we need to and had to get up early in the morning. We've all traveled at weird hours of the day. We've all dealt with jet lag. This is worse than any of that. And most people, I think, agree with me because I'm getting DMs and comments being like, this is totally normal. I would go to work and sleep on my office floor in the afternoon because I just couldn't do anything else. So a blessing in disguise is that I'm in quarantine, so there's nowhere I really have to be. The worst thing that happens is like I have a list of things I wanted to do to get work done or to clean the house, and it hits me and I have to go upstairs and take a nap, or I have to lay down on the couch and I don't get to finish my list. And the schedule that I create is mine. So I am very, very, very lucky that that's the situation. But this also made me think, like, if you're a woman in a workplace, it's almost unfair that you, one, don't look pregnant, two, most likely don't want to tell people that you're pregnant yet, but have to go through some of the worst symptoms in your first trimester that could affect your job performance or your ability to work at all. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, you know, I get that we have maternity leave, and in the US, I pretty much think maternity leave needs to be a lot better in our country for all. You should really have more like first trimester sick days or first trimester option to work from home if possible. I don't know. I think companies are becoming better, but it's one of those things where it really put things into perspective for my friends who have had to work through their first trimester or who didn't have the support at work to be able to take care of themselves to the best of their ability. I would say the fatigue has been the hardest symptom to manage, but I'm also, by week 9, I'm kind of just like, okay, Chris, I'm going upstairs. I'm done. I'm just going upstairs and laying there. And he's been really amazing and supportive because he's actually the one who's like, if you're tired, go upstairs. Like, just sleep. It's fine. And I'm just the one who's like, no, I have stuff to do. I have all these plans for today. I don't want to feel like I just wasted another day. Again, a lot of you guys have reached out and told me that it does go away and that it's okay and it's totally normal and that it's a hard, exhausting job growing a human, which again is a good reminder because I think that's the hardest thing to remember because I don't see this human every day. I don't feel the human every day in me. And so I have to remember it takes a lot more energy than I think it does to grow the human, grow the system to support the human, as well as go about my normal life. And for someone who likes to stay really busy and super active, that's been the hardest adjustment for me. But I'm adjusting, I think I'm adjusting pretty well. There's just some days where I'm like, oh, I don't want to feel tired. I just want to like get up and go. The third symptom after I found out I was pregnant that hit me hard was my sense of smell. I already have a really good sense of smell normally, but around week 6 or 7, I could smell something like a mile away. And it hasn't been a pleasant, heightened sensation with nausea. Because usually the things I can smell are not appealing to me. I've mentioned that the smell of cooking meat, the smell of meat in general makes me want to vomit. For somebody who eats animal products and gets most of her protein from animals, it has been kind of challenging. It's been very challenging for Chris because every time he cooks, I get nauseous. Even if he's cooking my food, which I have no problem eating, the smell of cooked food or cooking makes me so disgusted. It's like, ugh, and that's been really hard because I typically really enjoy cooking and I really enjoy smelling things as I cook, but I have not been in the kitchen since this started, mainly because it turns my stomach and it just does not appeal to me. I'm hoping this goes away a little bit because I do really like cooking and I still need to cook to finish up photos for my cookbook. So that's been a little bit challenging. Also, I can smell really not appealing colognes and perfumes from a mile away. Luckily, I haven't been outside very much or outdoors or in the vicinity of people. So luckily that hasn't been a huge issue for me. I think we were waiting in line to go into the store one day recently and I was wearing my mask and I could smell someone's cologne through my mask and it was making me nauseous. On the plus side, I really love the scent of eucalyptus and peppermint. So I diffuse peppermint during the day and I created a very simple eucalyptus spray that I literally spray all around me throughout the day. I spray it in the room, I spray it on our linens. So the eucalyptus spray that I make is really simple. It refreshes my senses, it makes me feel better, it tends to calm me down. And if I'm feeling nauseous, it kind of helps take the nausea away a little bit. So I really enjoy eucalyptus and peppermint right now. And that's something that's kind of like always being sprayed around me as well as diffused whenever I'm next to my diffuser. The fourth thing that started happening later on in my first trimester was food aversions. Like I mentioned, the smell of meat disgusts me. The look and taste of meat is also really disgusting to me right now, which is a huge 360. 360 or 180? I think 180. 180. We used to eat burgers like once or twice a week. We would make ribeyes and steaks. We have Butcher Box, which is a monthly, sustainable, ethically raised meat supplier. And I canceled our Butcher Box because I was so grossed out by meat. I have only been able to stomach chicken, and what Chris ends up doing is he chops up or dices up chicken and hides it in my food so that I'm getting the protein, but I'm not really tasting it. It's not a textural thing, I think it's a taste thing. Because I'm okay with fish, so I've been trying to eat more fish. Fish is also high in omega-3s, DHA, which is really important for your baby's mental development and IQ. So I'm trying to incorporate more fish, but of course you wanna make sure you're eating high omega-3 DHA fishes with low mercury count. Salmon's really good, sardines, like you want smaller fishes because the smaller the fish, the less mercury it typically has. So do your research on that if you are interested about trying to incorporate more fish. I definitely love seafood still. Seafood boils are probably the one craving I have that's like a normal food that's still good for me because it's high in minerals and nutrients and protein. So I love crawfish, I love clams, I love mussels, I really like sea bass and salmon. I haven't ate a lot of salmon recently just because I don't want to cook it and I don't want the smell in the house, but the white sea bass that I get that's sustainably raised is kind of just a very bland fish, and I just pour butter and garlic and lemon over it, so it really just tastes like butter, garlic, and lemon. I'm trying to eat more fish. Unfortunately, fresh fish is hard to get right now because I would have to go to the store more frequently and I don't want to do that. So I've been eating more frozen fishes, or we go to the store, not a store, we go to a restaurant and order takeout. So I'm trying to do more fish. I'm eating a lot of chicken and I try to eat like protein-based veggies. So my biggest food aversion is going to be meat. Do I have any other food aversions, honey?
Meat's the big one, and then no, it's more like what you crave at this point. Like you crave odd things more so than you have an aversion to things.
What odd things do I crave?
Cake. You never used to crave cake.
Oh yeah.
Cold things. You never used to crave cold things.
Yeah, so along with the food aversions, I've had strange cravings. And when I say strange for me, Chris just mentioned that I'm craving like cake and baked goods and pastries. And those aren't things I typically crave. Those are things that if like they're in front of me, I might not even eat it. Definitely if we're at like a fancy restaurant having a nice dinner, I'll want to order dessert, but it doesn't have to be cake or pastries. It can be ice cream. I'll eat more ice cream than I eat that kind of stuff. Recently, like all I want are pastries and baked goods and cakes, and then cold things, like cold crunchy things or just cold things in general. I used to never drink ice water because I didn't like cold water. So now I always ask Chris to put ice in my water because I only want cold water. Same with like teas. I never really drank iced tea, but I have this ginger peach tea to help settle my stomach when I'm feeling nauseous. And so I want it like ice cold. I want food to be cold, which is really strange because, well, not if the food is actually supposed to be warm, because I hate cold or lukewarm food that's supposed to be hot. But like salads, I'll be craving crunchy, cold salads or just like crunchy celery with something on it. It's weird, like I want cold things. Even my fruit, because we'll leave some of the fruit out to ripen before putting it in the fridge. And I want the fruit to be in the fridge before I eat it because I want the apple to be cold when I bite into it, or the mangoes to be cold. That's something that's very different for me. That was actually 5 food cravings. So from food aversions moving into food cravings, my cravings aren't like strange. I'm not eating like pickles and chocolate. I'm just eating different foods that I normally am not that crazy about or care about. One thing I haven't really been craving at all is chocolate, and I'm a chocolate person. I usually eat like a square of chocolate every single night, and right now I don't remember the last time I touched my chocolate bars in the fridge. So that's something that's really interesting. So those are all 10 of my early pregnancy symptoms and how I knew I was pregnant before the test 5 and after the test 5. So if you're pregnant yourself, congratulations. If you're trying to conceive, congratulations on making that decision and taking those steps. And I wish you the best of luck for your pregnancy or for your trying to conceive journey. I know that becoming a mother is just, there's so many things involved and so many emotions, and it's very hard for some people and it's very easy for others, but I don't think any one person's journey is the same, and everybody has their own struggles to deal with, whether they're trying to conceive, whether they're pregnant, whether they're going through labor or becoming a first-time parent. So I appreciate you watching this video and coming along on my journey. Let me know what other pregnancy videos you would like to see. This one was voted on by the community section on my YouTube channel, so thank you for voting and helping me decide. I will be doing weekly vlogs, and I'm calling them pregnancy vlogs because I'm clearly pregnant, and vlogs, other than being in quarantine, pregnancy is like the other major thing in my life. Hopefully you guys enjoy those weekly vlogs and kind of getting a peek into what it's been like, and I am hoping they'll become more interesting as my pregnancy progresses and as we try to navigate this whole new world dealing with COVID-19. Just a really crazy time. If you haven't seen my pregnancy announcement explaining everything, I do recommend you check that out, and I will have it linked in the description box. So I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope you're staying safe and healthy and that you're getting by. Okay, until next time, have a wonderful, beautiful rest of your day. Bye.